Okay, well, hi, Corinne. It's lovely to meet you.
Hi, Lamia. Is it Lamia or Lamia?
It's Lamia, but I respond to most things.
It's like Corinne and Corrine.
That's right. Well, Corinne, yes, please tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been house sitting.
Well, I began house sitting way back in my 20s because I was living in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So a lot of my house sit, because I'm looking for longer term house sits, are harder to find. So then I house sat for people in Santa Fe, New Mexico in the 70s. And then I was living in San Francisco in the 80s. So I would house sit. I house sat for a friend when she would go away and take care of her two cats. And I think there was another person. Yes, my author friend, Eleanor Cooney in Mendocino. I house sat for her and took care of her myriad cats. and then I got into the 90s, and I was in San Francisco until actually 2001, but I was traveling a lot in the 90s. So a lot of my international house sitting, I've only house sat for friends in Belize, and taking care of their dogs and fed their chickens, and when they were working in Belize City for like a couple of weeks. And so I haven't had that many really long-term house sits in other countries. So it's been mostly like, and then of course in Los Angeles, I was a repeat house sitter for my professional actor friends, and they work in television and film and theater. They're professional actors, and then they also do audiobooks. So they're really good friends of mine. So I used to joke when I lived there in LA for 9 years that their dog Licorice was my best friend in Scotland. Great. So that's kind of my history. I mean, there's been a lot of house sitting, but a lot of it's been done in the States, in different parts of the States. And then I was just with my friend in Maryland for 6 months, and I house sat for her when she went away because she had two cats and a dog, and a 16-year-old Shih Tzu, so he had issues. And I was joking with her. I said, they're all like toddlers. They're
It
animals.
sounds like you've been house sitting on and off for some time, really.
Yes, I have. Fortunately, yeah.
And are there any favorite places you have that you like to revisit? Obviously, you have regular gigs now, but are there places you particularly like?
Well, I mean, I'm one of these people who's slowly becoming a global citizen and trying to make the world my home. And I have leased since 1993 a piece of land in Borneo, Indonesia. So I will probably eventually go over there and build something on it because I've been to Indonesia twice. I joke with my friends in LA because I get more work done as a writer living outside the country than I did when I was living in LA because I have no phone service, and I just FaceTime with people on Skype or Messenger. And, so I'm able to just hold up. Like right now, I'm going to be working on my television show the whole time I'm here in Merida, Mexico, because I'm getting closer to finding a production company, hopefully. Since I had that wonderful note from Red Productions in England in 2016 when I was living in San Cristobal de los Casas in Mexico. So I love traveling, and I just want to, now that I'm in my 60s and going on 30, the only thing that falls out of my artistic window when I'm traveling a lot is I don't get to do comedy. That's my big love, and I don't get to audition for acting, things like that. But I hope to act in my own show, my television series I've been working on for 14 years. I had to learn everything.
Well, it sounds like you said you love traveling, and it's enabled you to travel to the most remarkable places. I mean, Borneo and Belize, you mentioned those two places. It's very few people get to go to those on a whim, but if you have people there you can house sit for, that must be quite an experience.
Yes, and I have old friends that I can visit. Yeah, I have old friends in Belize. I mean, during the 1990s, a lot of my time was spent in Central America, and I've been to every country except Nicaragua. And I sell paintings at a friend's gallery, Belizean Arts, BelizeanArts.com. And her name is Lindsay Hexton, and she and I've been friends for like 25 years. So when I'm in Belize, I usually paint, and I take some paintings to the gallery. And then, so I've exhibited as a painter with national recognition in 1991 in Belize. I was on television, on the radio. People were calling my name in the streets. It was hilarious. And then a year later, I did another big one-woman show in Antigua, Guatemala.
Well, that's quite a career you've had. It's fabulous. And so international house sitting and international travel sounds like you're a bit of a pro here. But do you find it's getting easier or more difficult as you go from place to place?
Well, I mean, like my story about Gatwick, I was shocked, like because I'm used to just cruising in and out of Mexico, and you only have to be gone. I usually get 180 days, which is the maximum for an American. And so I will go, but I'm usually gone out for like a month or at least 2 weeks to a month or longer. And then I'll come back in and I'll get another 180 days. And that's fairly easy. That border is still very easy. And Belize is still very easy. Belize only gives you 1 month. And then you can go to immigration, like say, oh, I'm staying here with my friends, having a good time, can I have another month? Well, sure. So I was used to like having this ease of travel in and out of borders. And then I was just really shocked when I got to England and the questioning that began. And I really felt like they were judging my lifestyle kind of as an artist traveling.
And do you think this is related to tightening immigration laws around the world, or do you think the UK in particular, maybe because of Brexit and the closing down of certain borders? Can you put your finger on why you think you had this issue at Gatwick?
Well, I think number one, I was in a bit of a hurry, and it's really hard in Los Angeles to call the British Embassy. It is, and I kept going online to I think it's gov.uk or uk.gov, and there was nothing on there about needing a visa for house sitting. There's no information, and they should have that information on there.
So is that a tourist visa, do you think you were looking for?
Well, I think I should, it was a time element, and of course, hindsight is 2020. Now I realize I would have needed a work visa, but they will also stamp you through, and it said that on the site, without a visa. So I really didn't think I'd have a problem. And then the wonderful woman I was going to be house sitting for, and we've stayed friends, Annie Berman, she just said, well, I've had an American friend come and house sit for me before, or she knew an American or a couple of Americans, and they just paid the 90 pounds, I think it was going over the border. But I think now, because Brexit was very much brewing then, I think that had a lot to do with it. And maybe other things. And England had been at terrorist attacks, and so I think that was part of it. So I was just really shocked. So anyway, yeah, and I was shocked they sent me back to. But I mean, it was just a miracle to see my friend Thomasina arriving on the flight the next day as these two agents are walking me toward the plane. I'm flying back on the very plane that she came on Norwegian Airlines. So I said quickly, call your parents and tell them, and can I stay there? And so she goes, of course I'll call them. Of course you can stay there. So and then the agents saw that this was someone that I know and they all said to me, all the agents said to me, we know you're a really nice person. And I'm like, well, duh. So
it sounds like they were being very stringent on people entering the country at that particular time, because you're an American citizen, you had a fresh American passport, you had the right to stay 6 months, but for some reason they decided that this was the moment to challenge somebody who was without a tourist visa.
Well, they didn't like that I was a traveler. They didn't like that I had been living in Mexico for a couple of years in 3 different places, that I hadn't become a resident. And I said, well, I didn't want to be a resident in Mexico. I said, it's a very big country, and I lived in 3 different places. And I said, I'm traveling. And they didn't like that. And they didn't like that, like I said in part one, first I was flummoxed. And so she said, well, do you have things? Are they stored anywhere? And I said, no. And then when she came back to get me after first going to talk to her supervisor, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I'm just overtired. And I said, I'm just nervous. And I said, I do have things stored at an author's house in Mendocino, California. We've been friends for almost 40 years. So, and then she was like, oh, okay, that's good. And I felt like, well, gee, am I being sort of criminalized because I don't own property in the United States? Because I don't want to own property in the United States. I never felt like I wanted to own property in the United States.
One of the things that I'm finding, and I'm hearing more and more stories like yours, is that while house sitting is growing and is really global now. We have people from all over the world who are registered with us at Housesitter Match, whether they are from Egypt or America or Canada or Australia or Britain or wherever. They travel the world, but it's still not necessarily recognized by authorities as a home. It's like not like a home exchange where people can clock that.
Right.
It feels still slightly new. So I think it may take people a while, certainly in positions of authority, to understand that it is an exchange, it's a collaboration, it's really part of the sharing economy. Let's hope that they understand that more readily as soon as possible. From your experience, which sounds like it was really quite traumatic, and I know in the blog, which we have published on our site, you go into some detail about what happened, and thank you for sharing that. But are there, say, 3 top tips you can recommend to people in order to perhaps just be sure of their steps, know their rights, know the information they need to prepare before they enter a new country? Are there 3 suggestive tips you can give to anyone who's listening to this video, watching this video?
Well, I think, it's like any smart traveler, you have to do your homework. And I think now more than ever, especially because I also contacted the Irish embassy and I told them a little bit about what happened to me at Gatwick, and they said I might have trouble now going into Ireland because I don't own property in the United States. And I'm like, come on, you've got to kind of hopefully realize that more and more, people are on social media and kind of, in my mind, of course, I would think this is between the house sitter who owns this property and the person they're trying to house it. Not that the government has to step in and decide, hey, you're getting something for free. So this is part of our immigration in-kind laws that say that you can't do this without a work permit. So I would say now more than ever, especially with Brexit and especially with other things going on in other parts of the world, you really need to meticulously do your homework more than ever and start early on. Even if it means like you start a year before you're going to travel or a year and a half before you travel, so that you make sure that you've dotted every I and crossed every T, and you know that you're going to be okay, and you have all the proper visas, and everything's going to be okay. And given that now, certainly in the UK, they just think they don't understand the friendships that are formed for years sometimes on social media, and you never meet the person. And yet you love them and you know them and you send them happy birthday and Merry Christmas and stuff like that. They don't understand that. And I think they don't consider that as like a really valid friendship.
So 3 tips, if I understand them, are do your homework and do it thoroughly. So prepare for the country you're going to and start preparing early, a year or a year in advance, or a year and a half in advance, so that at least you have a really good view of what's going on, where you're headed. And have a plan for your forward travel by the sounds of it. So those are the 3 tips that...
Yes, absolutely. I was going to get to that. Also, like you carry letters of personal references from friends of yours. And I know that they can think, oh, well, somebody could just have written that or you could have written that or whatever. But still, carry those. I carry those. And I have house sitting references from people over the years. And my friend in Maryland just gave me one. And also, yes, definitely have proof that if it's a situation where you need an ongoing ticket, and I had that. I had a Ryanair ticket flying out of Scotland to Dublin. That wasn't good enough. They wanted to know where I was going to go after that. And then I was joking to myself, sitting in detention, going, "Are they going to stalk me for the rest of my life?" Oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get the right visa for Brazil. Anyway, yeah, I would say those 3 things, but definitely make sure you have personal references, or because they're not necessarily going to consider your social media friends real friends, and because there's so many problems with that, and also just make sure you have a forwarding ticket, especially if you're going to European countries, I think, and especially England and Ireland and Scotland and Wales.
So planning ahead, planning onward journeys, know what your plan is for the next at least 6 to 12 months. So at least you've got an idea, you've got a direction.
Yes, and also make sure that you have, I would say, at least a year on your passport, at least a year before your passport expires. The longer, the better.
That's a really good tip.
Yes, and yeah, and because I mean, they hit me with things that I was just really shocked with. And so, yeah, I think those are really the pertinent things. I mean, really be prepared in a way that, especially if you do your homework and you go on the country's website and you find out that it's a country that either has been attacked, a terrorist attack or something. Now, of course, if you're going to England with Brexit, just really make sure that you do your homework thoroughly.
So the experience at Gatwick being questioned or inquisitioned the way you were, it hasn't put you off travel by the sounds of it. You're back in Mexico, you're writing by the sounds of it, you're being creative again, so the juices are flowing, you feel kind of happier in a warm climate for winter. You've stopped with traveling and house sitting?
Well, I mean, here I rent a room. I've rented a room, and I arrived at a hostel, which is just 50 yards up the street on October 23rd, really late at night, like 12:30 at night. And I was traveling in a van with this guy from Canada, so we've been talking. So we got here, then he had reservations at a hostel, and I had written down some names of hostels to tell the cab driver, but I said, oh, they'll have a room for me. So of course they did. And so I went there. And then the next day, I happened to walk up the street, and I was looking for a rental already, even though I was exhausted. And I found this place. And so I just gave him a deposit. And then next day after that, so October 25th, I moved into this room. And of course, now that I'm in the tropics again, I just bought my hammock for the first time, because sometimes where I pay to live, there is a hammock. And then I set up what I call my camp kitchen, which means I live without a refrigerator, which most Americans can't.
So Corrine, with your camp kitchen and your writing in full flow, you'll be there until April by the sounds of it. And where will you be next?
Well, you know, it's weird. I'm one of these people, because I've been on a spiritual path, not disciplined the whole time, but for 32 years. I kind of really learned to listen to that quiet voice within. And if that says, go to India, then I'll figure out a way to go where I'm going next. I mean, I hope to have a house sit somewhere, and I hope to, I'll see what happens when Dylan reads the pilot, and then I'll probably have more notes with that. Because it's a very hard thing to sell a show, and I want to sell it to a streaming network, of course. And I'll be happy if I get maybe 6 or 8 episodes and then it's canceled. At least I did it, and then I'll have more of a name. And I want to act in my own show. So, and I thought I would try to approach the agency that represents Ricky Gervais in England to see if they might be interested. So my show is a 1-hour dramedy, and it's about a support group for caregivers, but it's facilitated by a shape-shifting, time-traveling Celtic shaman.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's very different.
So we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Okay. Well, listen, thank you so much, Corrine, for talking to us today about the experiences recently and really your lifetime of traveling and house sitting across the world. It's been fascinating.
Yes, and I can't thank you enough for inviting me to write a blog and all your hard work and editing, and it's been wonderful. I can't wait to meet you in person when I do finally get into England.
Well, let me know. It's a date. We'll meet soon.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And safe travels, everyone.
Thank you so much.